GMs for Hire.
Welcome back to GMs for Hire, everybody. My name is Will Polston, alongside with the usual boys, RJ, Matt, and Jamil. And we're here to bring you the divisional matchups for the NFL wild card, or the NFL playoffs, not the wild card. We just went past that. I just addressed that. Anyway, going on into the divisional matchups, we've got 4 games that we're going to discuss here today. We have come down after one round of playoffs. We know who the legitimate teams are. We've reached that point where we've kicked the frauds out. We'll talk a little bit about that, I'm sure. But right now, the standings, if I'm not mistaken, I am still currently up by 3 games over Matt. And then both Jamil was able to grab a game. He is now 5 games back. And did RJ grab 2? Did RJ grab 2 games, and he will now be 6 games back, only 1 behind Jamil. So it's a tight race. You may, after this, be mathematically eliminated, RJ. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure how it's working right now, but bearing any substantial downfall by Matt or I think that it may be fun to pack it home. But I'm glad you're still here. I'm glad you're still here to talk about football.
Well, the Super Bowl is going to count for 5 points, so.
That's fine. Watch us all go unanimous for the Super Bowl.
We should have counted all the playoffs as 2 points.
If only.
A little late now.
Can't be making up rules now. All right.
Traditionally, if Will wins 2 more games, no matter, until the end of the season, if he wins only 2 more games, RJ is mathematically out. Basically, that's basically how that goes.
Maddie stats of a Maddie stat.
Love that.
I do the same.
And RJ and I are, never mind. We're going to get to that here.
Yeah.
But we're going to start off. Let's start off on the AFC side of things. Let's start with the first matchup in Buffalo hosting the Baltimore Ravens. RJ, I'm going to turn it to you first. We saw the Ravens be able to hold back Derrick Henry a lot last week, able to hold him to, I want to say, less than 50 yards rushing. This week, not the concern being the running game. It's definitely the passing game. How do you think this passing defense is going to be able to fare against Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs?
Well, you mentioned, they held Derrick Henry to, I think, like 40 yards, something like that. I mean, they completely took him out of the game. Derrick Henry was a non-factor for the Tennessee Titans, and that's why they're going to be watching the rest of the playoffs from home. The problem, you mentioned, is the pass defense. And if you watch that Ravens-Titans game, A.J. Brown was getting his on Marlon Humphrey. And Marlon Humphrey always wants the number 1 matchup. So he's going to get Stephon Diggs this week. And Stephon Diggs, nobody has been able to stop him all year. That dude, I think he led the league in receiving yards, right? He was top 5 if he didn't. The dude has been unreal all year. Josh Allen's been slinging it. It's going to be another home game in Buffalo. I saw Lamar Jackson made a comment today about he doesn't want a snow game. I didn't look at the forecast yet, but boy, that'd be something if we get a snow playoff game in Buffalo. That pass defense for Baltimore, I think they did all right against Tennessee, but Tennessee doesn't have the firepower and the just oomph that Buffalo's got. This Buffalo team can flat out sling it, and they can put up 40 points if they want, weather permitting, obviously, but that's Stephon Diggs, Marlon Humphrey matchup. That's the game right there.
Matt, Lamar got his first playoff win last week over the Titans, ultimately beating your Titans, who ended up beating him last year. Talk a little bit about how big this is for Lamar to grab that first playoff win going into Buffalo.
I think it's huge. The narrative coming into the game against the Titans, of course, was that Lamar was yet to win a playoff game. He finally got that done, taking down the Titans. And I think from here, it can boost morale, give you a little bit of confidence. I don't think Lamar Jackson's the kind of guy to lack confidence, but this is definitely momentum you want to take into the next round. So, I mean, it does all things positive for Lamar and the Ravens.
Jamil, obviously, the big attack from Baltimore is the rushing attack. Do you think the Buffalo Bills defense has what it takes to contain the Baltimore Ravens enough?
No, I don't, honestly. I think the Ravens are going to be able to run the ball pretty effective this game. If you watched the game last week, Jonathan Taylor was pretty effective in the run game for the Ravens. Or not the Ravens, the Colts. So this week, the Ravens, they come with J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. I think they'll be able to use both of them in the running game and the passing game. I think they're going to be able to be pretty effective against this Bills defense.
Now, open discussion for everybody. Did the Bills win that game or did the Colts lose that game?
Absolutely not. The Colts 100% lost that game. If you watch that game, the Colts literally dominated all 4 quarters. The problem with the Colts was they couldn't finish drives in the red zone. Phillip Rivers overthrew Michael Pittman on a wide open touchdown on the back of the end zone very early in that game, and around the second quarter, I want to say. And then they couldn't finish drives in the red zone. They couldn't get touchdowns, and ended up losing the game when they missed a pretty easy field goal from Blankenship.
Anything to add?
Well, listen, it's the playoffs. All you got to do is win by one. It's not college football. There's no rankings. There's no, eye test or anything like that. All you got to do is win by one. You survive in advance, make it to the next round. Buffalo did not look as good as they should have last week, but hey, this week's a new one.
All right. The way I look at it with this AFC picture, man, literally the last place team to get in the Colts was 11-5. I mean, every single team from the AFC has been legit this year. Even a 10-6 Dolphins team couldn't find the playoffs this year when you're seeing a 7-9 team from Washington and an 8-8 team in Chicago make it on the NFC side of things. The AFC is legit. There's not going to be an easy win throughout the whole playoffs. And I think we saw that a lot in the first round. Even when Pittsburgh came out and started fumbling the bag early on, they still came back and made it close. And that's after 4 interceptions and a ton of penalties. At the end of the day, all the AFC teams have something, they are competing teams. They are very good over there in the AFC. But nonetheless, Baltimore going to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Let's get to the predictions. RJ, who do you have in this game, Baltimore or Buffalo?
You guys know, if you've been following along since week 1, I love Lamar Jackson. I've been very high on Baltimore, but I think it finally stops here because we all know why.
Matt Berry, what is your opinions on this, Buffalo or Baltimore?
I do think it'll be close, but I'm going to go with the Bills. I'm glad RJ mentioned it earlier. I think it'll be interesting to see if it snows, to see if that limits Lamar Jackson's mobility even further. I don't know if he's played in a snowy game yet. That's something to look out for. Don't know what the weather's like, but I'm going to go with the Bills in a close one.
Jamil?
I hear what y'all are saying about the snow. I think if it snows, I think that kind of favors the Ravens because I think they're by far the better team when it comes to running the football. I think it's gonna be harder to throw the ball in a snow game. But I've been very, very high in the Bills this season. They were my pick to go to the Super Bowl before the playoffs started. I thought they were gonna play the Packers, but after what I saw last week, I think the line ends here. I think this Ravens team is far more dynamic on offense than the Colts. I think if they can get into the red zone, they will definitely score touchdowns and not kick field goals. And I think that'll be the difference.
I think this is ultimately going to come down to what side of the offense is going to prevail. I think if this is a colder game, but it's not snowing, it's going to be all Buffalo. I think if this is snowing, it's going to be a lot closer of a game, like Jamil said. But ultimately, I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. No one circles the wagons. We all know. We've all been here. Great podcast content, by the way. We did that on Spotify. Yeah, everybody's loving that awkward moment of silence, by the way. So catch the YouTube version. Go catch it on GMs. That's amazing. GMs for Hire on YouTube. Go hit there. Go subscribe. Be 170. Be that guy. But going on. So 3 of us taking the Bills. Jamil ultimately taking the Ravens. Going on to the other AFC matchup as the Cleveland Browns will be visiting the Kansas City Chiefs, the number 1 seed. This is an interesting game to say the least. Baltimore, I already talked about that game. Cleveland came out and put up a show against the Pittsburgh Steelers, granted missing some defensive pieces, granted beating themselves in a lot of cases. But ultimately, like RJ said, you need the win, and a win's a win. Cleveland was able to get it done, able to make something happen. And this is a team that is now starting to roll a little bit. Whenever you get that first win, obviously that's the big leap. But whenever you're staring into the face of number 15 on the opposition, I don't know how much you're confident. So, Matt, I'm going to talk. I'll talk with you first. Obviously, we've seen the Kansas City Chiefs dominate. They only took one loss, basically one legitimate loss as a full team. Obviously, they sat their starters against the Chargers, and that was to the Vegas Raiders. Do you think after watching this Bills game, we've talked a little bit back and forth, do you think the Chiefs are currently the favorite for the AFC?
Yeah, I think from day one of this season, the Chiefs have been the favorite, and they played during the regular season how a number 1 team would play. Here they are, playoffs, 1 seed, got the bye. They have everything that proves that they're a number 1 team. I don't think seeing the Bills or any other team in this league play really changed that. I still think they're the best team in this league.
Jamil, I'll turn it over to you. What do the Browns need to do differently to pick off the Kansas City Chiefs?
I think they need to stick to the same game plan they had. That Chubb and Hunt, they love the offense, like RJ said last week. They need to play through them. I think they did a good job of doing that, and they had enough of Jarvis Landry sprinkled in to get the job done versus Pittsburgh. Coming in against the Chiefs, it's a lesser defense than the Steelers, to be honest. So I think they'll be able just to stick to the same game plan. They should be able to keep this game very close.
All right, RJ. Obviously, we know Pat Mahomes. We know everybody like that on the offensive front. Do you think this defense has what it takes to hold down the Cleveland Browns offense?
I don't, because I said it last week. I think this is the best running back duo in the whole league. I think there's an added element of, Kareem Hunt. He was, the Chiefs gave up on him. You can say what you want about what happened off the field and all that, but the Chiefs could have stuck with him. They could have, weathered the suspension, brought him back, and it would have been all good to go. They didn't. They let him walk. They let him leave. And don't think that Kareem Hunt's not going to be thinking about that come Sunday afternoon. So I don't think this Chiefs defense is going to be able to contain those two. I just think they're going to have to rely on Patrick Mahomes to go win it for them.
Question for the floor. Do you guys think this is going to be the highest scoring game of the 4 games this week?
No.
Maybe.
No. I think Baltimore Buffalo actually might be a shootout. Yeah, I think it might, unless it snows, obviously that'll kind of screw everything up. But if Lamar's clicking and Josh Allen will be clicking, that could be a very high scoring game Saturday night.
I was going to say Bucs Saints, actually, because if you get Brady and Brees firing on all cylinders, it's kind of hard to stop them on both sides, whether the Saints defense is elite or not. So that was going to be my pick for it, but I could see the Browns Chiefs one being pretty high scoring as well.
I'm gonna go with this game because the only way the Browns are going to win is if they keep pace with the Chiefs offense, and the Chiefs offense rarely gets stopped.
Makes sense.
Fair enough. Tell you what, getting to the Saints and Bucks later, we've seen both of those two teams have pretty great defenses, but we've seen them both bend a little bit. We have seen them kind of allow some pretty big numbers. So, we know the offensive firepower. So honestly, not a bad pick. And Baltimore and Buffalo, we know that what those two teams are capable of too. But nonetheless, talking about Cleveland and Kansas City, the defending champs versus the new hopefuls to the playoff scene for the first time in a while. RJ, I'll start with you. Your pick for the Browns versus the Chiefs.
Look, I think there's going to be a lot of Nick Chubb. I think there's going to be a lot of Kareem Hunt. I think the Browns have to just keep plugging away, just keep running the ball, because if you can hold on to the ball, if you can just own the time of possession and give Patrick Mahomes very limited possessions, they can win this game. The problem is I can't pick Patrick Mahomes to lose to Baker Mayfield. Baker has played great the final 8 weeks. Matter of fact, if you look at Pro Football Focus, Baker Mayfield actually has a higher grade the last 8 weeks than Patrick Mahomes. So I think it was a great story, them finally getting a win, knocking off a division rival. But I just think Kansas City, man, Cleveland's been a great story, but man, when 15's playing, it's hard to bet against them.
Matt, I'll turn it over to you. The Browns or the Chiefs?
Yeah, RJ said it really well. We all love a Cinderella story, but when you're going against the Chiefs with that guy under center, it's tough to question. I got Chiefs and I got them by double digits, really.
Jamil?
I've been high on the Browns all season. I've said it from week 1. I thought they were going to have a great season. Baker Mayfield far and away his best season of his career, but I think it's going to be too much of the Chiefs offense. Just to be too hard to stop.
I just can't believe in the Browns defense enough. I can't do it. It ultimately that we both know that both offenses have the firepower. We've seen Cleveland put up ungodly numbers here over the last couple of weeks. Scoring 40 points almost on a regular basis. We've seen them drop 40, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 times within the last 8 weeks. They've been scoring at an alarming rate. But at the end of the day, if you leave any time on the clock for Kansas City with Pat Mahomes, it's too much time. And can it come down to the last possession? Ultimately, the Browns have to do it that way. The Browns really have to do it by managing the clock. But it's one of those, can they make it happen? Can the defense make that stop whenever they need it? And yeah, they were able to pick off Big Ben 4 times, and they were able to get a defensive touchdown. But I can't believe in him that much. The Steelers really beat themselves, and that's why I'm not going to ask that question. That really is no debate. Obviously, going up 28-0 in the first quarter, and 2 of those touchdowns were not even because of the Browns. It was some costly interceptions, the bad snap to start the game. Obviously, Pittsburgh really just kind of crumbled, and Cleveland took advantage, which you have to do. But ultimately, I don't think Kansas City is going to make enough mistakes for Cleveland to hang on. So going into the NFC side of things, we'll start with the closer of the seeds in that regard. As Bucks and Saints, the Bucks will be traveling to New Orleans to face for the 3rd time this season. The Saints have their number so far as of this season. So, Jamil, I'll start with you. Obviously the Saints 2-0, really hard to beat a team 3 times. But what do the Bucks have to do differently that they've been doing against the Saints to overcome the Saints?
If you look at it, when these 2 teams played week 1, I don't think you put too much stock into the first game of the season, especially when you didn't have really an off season. Second game, the Saints kind of just, took it to the Bucks from the start to finish. So I think you've seen since that game and since the Rams game, the Bucks offense has completely changed. They've run the ball a lot more. They've run a lot more play action. They've established a lot more motion plays. You definitely see the influence Tom Brady has had in this offense. So I definitely think it's going to be a complete different game from the Bucks perspective. But while saying that, I don't think this is going to be like any other 3rd time you played a team, because since the first game was week 1 with no offseason, second game was a beatdown that the Saints didn't have to pull out their playbook at all much after the first quarter. I think this is going to be truly the biggest, the best competition we're going to see out of both of these teams. I think it's going to be a really close football game.
I'll ask you, RJ. The Saints were honestly in that game against Chicago a little underwhelming. Do you think that their offense is a little bit of a concern facing Tampa Bay this week?
Absolutely, I think so. Look, I've sat here and I think I've killed Drew Brees on this podcast. Like, I don't think that he's 100% healthy. Matter of fact, I know he's not. The guy at some point is going to become a liability. When you get into the playoffs, you have to have that guy at quarterback. We just talked about how good the Browns are, but Patrick Mahomes, man, can't bet against him. Like, Drew Brees at some point has to turn back the clock 15 years. He has to put that Superman cape on, and he's going to have to beat the Bucks. Like, listen, they did not look that good against the Bears, and I don't think the Bucks looked great against Washington either. But this game right here, it's the 3rd time they've played each other this year. I get what you're saying, Jamil, about, week 1 and then the blowout, all that. But this is still the 3rd time. Bucks fans, Bucks players, Bucks coaches, anybody who's ever stepped foot in Raymond James Stadium is going to be on fire for this game. This is going to be the best game maybe of the entire playoffs. I'm so glad it's the Sunday night game, because we are about to see a show from these 2 teams.
Matt, I'll turn it over to you. RJ honestly kind of segued it perfectly. Whenever I was thinking of it, the Saints were a little bit underwhelming about the Bears, but the defensive unit for the Bucks a little bit underwhelming against Taylor Heinicke and the Washington football team as well. Which do you think would be more concerning after watching the games? Do you think the Bucks defense is a little bit more concerning, or the Saints offense?
Honestly, if I'm the Bucks, I'm more worried about the Saints offense than the Saints worried about the Bucks defense. Oh, wait. That goes together because they're bad and good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I think the Bucks defense is more of a problem than the Saints offense. It's Drew Brees under center. RJ's been burying him all year. I get it, but it's still Drew Brees. He's still producing. You have the stats from this season to prove it, whether he's healthy or not. I trust Drew Brees, not as much as Tom Brady, of course, but probably more than any other quarterback in the league at this point. I know the Saints have had trouble in the playoffs, but I do think they have what it takes to at least get past the Bucks, and especially with the secondary of the Bucks, it's probably their weakest point as a whole on the whole team. I'm sure RJ and Jamil know more about that than I do, but I'd be worried about that if I was the Bucks. They need to play very good pass defense, or Brees is going to throw all over them.
This is my Matt Perry question of the episode. So the Saints have had the Minneapolis Miracle against them. They've had that pass interference call against them. what stupid play happens in this game to where the Saints fans get pissed off and go run all over social media? What's it going to be? Is it going to be a stupid penalty? Is it going to be, what's going to happen to where the Saints fans find their way on Twitter?
It's going to be when Devin White sacks Drew Brees in the first quarter and Drew Brees doesn't come back for the rest of the game. And Saints fans are like, well, we had to throw Taysom Hill out there. Ooh, what do you expect?
At that point, just play Jameis because he wants it more.
Listen, I'm sorry. The best quarterback on the New Orleans Saints roster is Jameis Winston. Don't care.
You got to stop. Stop now. Please stop. You got to stop. You're killing me here. You're really killing me. You can't. There's stats to prove that Drew Brees is the best quarterback. I don't care if Winston started or got more reps. He didn't. But if he did, it doesn't matter. Drew Brees is the best quarterback on that roster.
Nope.
You're trolling. No, it's bad.
I'm actually not trolling right now.
It's so bad. You can't do that.
Right.
That's not something you say. That's bad. That's so bad. But we'll answer your question. I think Lattimore is going to do something stupid and they'll get mad at him. And that'll be what
Lattimore and Mike Evans are probably due to fight and both get ejected.
Yeah,
correct.
But
exactly.
Last week's theme, I don't know if y'all noticed, the Bills got screwed out of a fumble and the Bucks got screwed out of a fumble. Someone will get screwed out of a fumble probably this game.
I had an idea, and I kind of was going along with RJ about the Devin Bush sacking Drew Brees. I thought there was going to be some stupid play where, say, Cam Jordan comes around the end against one of those terrible tackles on the Bucks, gets a sack.
There's only one terrible tackle. Don't.
Then he'll be up against that terrible tackle.
Please don't
lose one of the
best right tackles in the NFL into that statement, please.
Sorry,
he held his own.
Donovan Smith.
Donovan Smith showed me something last week. I will say that.
Yeah, he did.
Last week. Okay, we'll give him that. Okay, but whenever somebody there's going to be some pressure and it's going to be a clean hit. And I thought it was going to be a bogus roughing the passer call that's going to put them in the red zone. And then Brady's going to cook, and then they're going to find a way into the end zone. And then it's a one-possession game. I think it's going to be something stupid like that. Last year it was a penalty. I like the penalty call. But I like the fumble call too. It does run with the theme. So it'll be interesting to see. So, Matt, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I got Drew Brees' stats here. It's ridiculous.
Just watch the game.
Anything. 24, I don't care. 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, passer ratings over 100, almost 3,000 passing yards, which isn't, top 5, but it's, that's a solid ratio. He's the best quarterback on the Saints. I don't care. It can't be Jameis. It just doesn't make sense.
All right. Let's get to the predictions for this game. Bucks going into New Orleans to take on the Saints. RJ, I'll start with you. Who do you got?
The last time these two teams played, the Saints came into Tampa and blew the doors off of the Bucks. The Bucks ran the ball 4 times in that game. 4. That's it. And it was also Antonio Brown's first game as a Buccaneer. Since then, AB is the key. Listen. I don't know how far the Bucks are going to go, but Antonio Brown is the key to the Bucks winning the Super Bowl. Not just this game, the Super Bowl. If Antonio Brown keeps cooking and keeps playing like he's been playing, and if they can get Fournette to run the ball like he ran the ball against Washington, I think they go into New Orleans and they get a lot of people pissed off because the Bucks are going to win this game.
All right. We got Bucks for RJ. I'll go over to you, Matt. Who you got? Bucks Saints.
The Bucks obviously have a lot of promise, and they've shown that. But if anything from that second matchup showed me is that the Bucks can't hang with the Saints. So I think it'll wind up being close, but I do think the Saints are going to win.
Jamil?
Obviously, I would love to be a homer here and pick the Bucks, but everything is just telling me that the Saints are going to win this game. The problem I've had with the Bucks all season is that I have not seen many games where we consistently played a good first, second, third, and fourth quarter. And I think at any time if they decide to have one of those meltdowns in one quarter, that the Saints will take advantage and put up a 14-point quarter, and it'll be too much to overcome. So I'm going to take the Saints in a really close one.
This dude's wearing a Bucks hoodie, and he picked the Saints. I can't. I don't know what's going on.
I'm not going to be a homer for no reason. Obviously, I want the Bucks to win.
Yeah, right. I busted out the Dick jersey, and the Bears had to take the Bears. I mean, I might eat my words now, but I had to do it. But I also need to come back and just pick them. Fair. Give me the Bucks. I can't go up against playoff Brady. I really can't. I have a strange feeling in my gut that a running back will run more than, oh God.
He has a jersey.
My uncle's a really big Saints fan, so at one point, yeah.
Me?
There you go.
He's one of my favorite players of all time, if I'm being completely honest with you.
I'll be honest. I'll be dead honest. I love Drew Brees, but he is not Drew Brees anymore.
Fair enough.
Ride or die.
But I'm going to go with the Bucks. I can't bet up against Tom Brady in the playoffs. I can't. I have a strange feeling in my gut, like I was saying, that the Bucks are going to run the ball more than 4 times in this game, which would be nice to see. I can't wait to see that. Hopefully, I think they're going to finally establish a run. As we've mentioned multiple times, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. It really is. And yes, the first matchup was a close matchup. No OTAs, no everything like that. The second matchup really put a bad taste in your mouth if you're the Bucks. And I think, obviously, coming off of that game, I think I think you know a little bit more about this team. You've seen them twice now. I'm sure you've watched the tape on the game last week. Last week, the Saints showed that they have some holes and they can be beaten. I think the Bucks are going to find a way to make that happen. So the last game, the Los Angeles Rams going into Lambeau Field, not a fun place to play in general, let alone in January. But whenever it comes down to it, ultimately, Jared Goff with his broken thumb, it's going to be interesting to see him. He came in and he did just enough to get him by. Obviously, the Seahawks played a little bit underwhelming, but whenever the big picture with them is the defense, obviously. The Rams are going to be carried by that defense. That defense is absolutely amazing on all sides. A very underrated secondary. Jalen Ramsey playing as one of the best corners in the league. Aaron Donald is Aaron Donald. We all know the name. I'll leave the question open to the floor. Does Jared Goff's thumb concern you in this game after the way we saw him play against Seattle, and now going into Lambeau, which I have brought up multiple times? He does not play well in the cold, and I can tell you, in Green Bay in January, it's going to be brisk. It's going to be a little cold. It's going to be chilly. Does the thumb concern you for Jared Goff? Open to the floor.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. He did not play well against Seattle. Like, you can go back and look at his numbers. Like, he was not very effective. It was just the defense that just stifled Seattle, and Seattle had no answer for it. So, yeah, if the game falls on Jared Goff's shoulders, congratulations, Aaron Rodgers. But I just think the Rams defense, it's gonna be a good one.
Anybody else? I'm assuming we're all kind of along the same page, kind of
Definitely
concerned about the thumb.
It's going to be an issue, 100%. Especially in a cold weather game. This team's going to have to rely on running the ball to win this game for sure.
But hey, I mean, this Rams team relies a lot on running the ball in general. Anyways, Cam Akers doing a great job his rookie season, really making the transition to the NFL very well. Which team do you think has? Well, that's a bad. All right, I'll ask this question then. Which team do you think has the better running back right now, the Packers or the Rams?
Cam Akers is by far the hottest running back right now, arguably in the NFL. He's been putting up killer numbers over the past few weeks. No knock on Aaron Jones, but he's been having a good season as well. But I think Cam Akers is running really, really hot at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment, I'd say Akers. I think Aaron Jones is a little underutilized just because Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback. But hottest would definitely be Cam Akers.
All right. The Rams going into Lambeau to face Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Predictions, RJ, we'll start with you. Who do you have for this game?
If this game falls on Jared Goff's shoulders, it will be a blowout win for the Packers. My problem is this Rams defense. I have had one problem, and really just one problem with the Packers since back when we did our very first show after the draft. Aaron Rodgers does not have enough weapons. You mentioned Jalen Ramsey playing like one of the best corners in the world. No. He is playing like 08 Darrelle Revis. Like, he's playing like 90s Dion. This dude is the definition of a shutdown corner. He is going to shut Davante Adams out. Like, Davante Adams is going to be non-effective in this game. And now we are going to see the big weakness on this Packers team. Are you going to rely on Robert Tonyan, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and some of these other hacks to win you a playoff game? Yeah, go Bulls, but God almighty. Like, come on. if Jalen Ramsey locks Davante Adams down like I think he's going to, I don't see how the Packers are going to score very much.
All right. So RJ, assuming.
So I'm picking the Rams, by the way.
I was going to say,
yeah,
I'm assuming
sorry.
the Rams.
So I'm going with the Rams.
All righty. Matt, we'll turn it over to you. Rams going into Lambeau to face the Packers. Who do you got?
RJ made a good point with the secondary of the Rams and how well they're playing. But for me, the key point to look at is that left tackle David Bakhtiari for the Packers, one of the best left tackles in the league, to my knowledge, he's out with a torn ACL. And the way I see it, that just opens it up for Aaron Donald and the D line of the Rams. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is gonna try to pull something out of his ass. He does it almost every time. But I do think that the Rams defense will be able to overwhelm him. And overall, I do think that it'll be a low scoring game because I think Goff will be very limited. Hopefully they go to Akers, which would be the right choice. But overall, I do think defense over offense is important in this game. And then I'm going to go with the Rams.
Jamil?
Give me the Packers. There's no way I'm taking Jared Goff over Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Donald's a little bit banged up. I think they'll slow him down just enough. And there's no way I'm picking Jared Goff over Aaron Rodgers. And let's see if you do, Will, because if you do, I'm going to be very perplexed.
God, what quarterback do I hate more? Man, it's just a game. I'm just going to sit.
Two different hates.
It is two different hates. I'm just going to sit there and snarl at the screen all 4 quarters. But ultimately, I think Davante Adams is going to get his own. I think they're going to line him up in the slot a lot, and that's how they're going to kind of combat Ramsey. But ultimately, I hate it. I'm going with the Rams. The Rams defense is phenomenal. Banged up or not, Aaron Donald, one of the most electric defensive players in the NFL. I think they have what it takes to get it done. I think putting him in the slot limits Davante Adams a little bit, and I think they're going to struggle to get their own whenever it comes to the offensive pieces. And I think the Rams are going to do just enough, and I think Akers is going to do just enough, not on Goff. But yeah, ultimately, I think the Rams are going to win this game. So that's it for this one.
Earlier, you mentioned the highest scoring game. I think this is the lowest scoring game.
Fair enough. But that's it for this one going into the wild card round. We have to wrap it up here. So for RJ, for Matt, and Jamil, my name's Will Polston. Thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you all in the championship round. So y'all take it easy.